Happy Halloween! Ooh, spooky. I'm wearing a spooky shirt. Okay. So I did this video a while back actually. I did a video where shaky camera. Um, I did the quick thoughts on Mario Odyssey. I beat it literally the day I got it. I saw the credits roll the day I got it. I nowhere near 100% because the game is huge. I have around 200 of the moons right now. My understanding is there's somewhere around 900. So that shows that I'm nowhere near done with the game in that sense. I haven't completed it. Completion metrics are a complicated thing. I'll explain it when I post the End is Nigh video, whenever the hell that's done. I'm gonna do more visual edits tonight. But anyway, there is a very strong chance that I will make a video which features this game. It won't be a video about the game in terms of like, oh, here's the thing with this game. It's going to be talking more about um, how collectathon levels are designed. And I want to use Mario Odyssey as an example of bad and good in some cases, but I want to focus on the bad level design for collectathon in Mario Odyssey, and that's probably my biggest issue with the game. So I'll briefly touch upon it here, but understand that there will be a video that goes more in depth to it. So if you have any questions, then wait, I guess, for that video to come out whenever it's done, if it ever gets done. It's another one of those ideas that I'm just going to be throwing out, I guess. So if that sounds interesting, cool, let me know. But it's something that I'm pretty passionate about, and I think I will end up making probably sometime next year. I have two videos from that, both of which were mentioned in the ideas video that I want to do first. So I'll get those done, and then I'll probably be doing that Odyssey video after that. And it won't be an Odyssey video, most likely, because I'll probably touch upon the banjo games and maybe ukulele and a Hat in Time if I ever play it. There's also a chance, depending on how the writing goes, that it might end up being like a sequel video to the Mario video I made a few months ago this year. Specifically talking about level design for an open world collectathon, as opposed to previous Mario games, which has been this like halfway situation. So like the big difference between Odyssey and something like 64 or Sunshine or Galaxy is in 64 and Sunshine, what happens is you go into the level and you select a mission, and this mission determined some of the layout of the level. In Sunshine, the level layout drastically changed. In Galaxy, the level layout drastically changed. But in something like this in something like 64, then it only changed somewhat. There were only some things that changed in the level. So like you could enter the first mission and then get the star in the sixth mission, for example, which is something that I criticize. Is like them, if you can get something from the sixth mission one, then why have the selection in the first place? It's inconsistent and complicated and confusing. So what they do in Odyssey to fix this, which I think is a good fix, is you're dropped in the level, go collect moons. The thing is that not all moons will be accessible from the start of the level. There are these things called multi-moons, which are like these big moons that are worth 3 moons essentially, that you get from clearing a major level objective. And when you do these things, that will affect the layout and the layout and the atmosphere and the enemy placement of within this level that may or may not give you access to more moons, while also maintaining access to all of the moons that were there originally. That's brilliant. That's a really good idea, because now what you have is you don't have a situation where you're selecting a mission and then you're like, oh, I'm going to get this one instead, and then it throw you out of the level and it just be really confusing. Now it's like, oh, well, it tells you what the main objective is. It says, here's where the multi-moon is, go and get it. But then along the way, if you're like, no, I don't even feel like doing that, I want to get like a few other moons over in this yonder place over here, you can do that. And you don't even have to get the multi-moon. You could get like a certain number of regular moons, and then it's like, oh, well, that's enough to go to the next level. So you don't even have to clear the main objective of the level to even beat the game. You know, you don't have to clear most of the main objectives of the levels in order to beat the game. There are a lot of boss fights that I have not fought, and there are even boss fights of which I've fought harder versions of before I fought the original intended version, which just shows how it just shows like how much freedom there is in this game, that you can actually fight the harder version of a boss before fighting the original version. So This is all good. These are all fixes that I mentioned that in the original video, in the 3D Mario video. And what I said was is that the linear focus design of the 3D World games really allowed for good level design, but they also had this freedom where you could tangentially leave this main path to go get these extra collectibles. Back then it was the star coins or the green stars. In this game, it's just more power moons essentially, and these tangents are much larger in this game because the worlds are designed to be more open and free in that way. So I think all that's good. I think all that's actually really good. And because of that, I would argue that Odyssey is probably the strongest of these like open world kind of collection focused 3D Mario games because it removes this mission based structure that's kind of plagued the series for so long and has now opened you up into this wider explorative world where you get to kind of do whatever you want. Mario's movement mechanics are designed to make this more enticing because there's a lot of fun you can have while moving around. Although I would argue that this moving around in itself can get tiring over time. But it's not like 3D World where the movement mechanics are tight. Instead, they're kind of loose and free, and the point of that is just to make it fun to move around. So it definitely feels different. Like when you're running up and down a hill, you don't move at the same velocity. You speed up as you run down the hill because that's fun. But in 3D World, if they did that, then it would be so frustrating because you're dealing with these really tight obstacles. And if you have these really like tight, precise obstacles and this really ridiculous movement, then that would be hard to control and people would be frustrated by it. This also becomes an issue when you have those tighter platforming sections because the movement is designed around it, which is a whole other conversation entirely. So I won't get into it. Basically, the struggle with Mario games for a long time has been, since 64 basically, has been that the 2D games have been designed around linear focused challenges with slight tangents to vary up level design. But in the 3D Mario games, they've had this battle between free open levels and focused level design. And Sunshine is the extremity of wide open levels, even though it had a fairly linear structure in terms of get the shine, you leave the level, get the shine again. The levels were very open. And Odyssey is also very open. 64 was kind of open, but it had this very linear path. There was always a very clear path to the main mission, and then all other missions that you selected were clearly tangential to the main mission. So Odyssey kind of uses that 64 level design and then takes it to its logical conclusion where there's a multi-moon at this end point, and then along that path there are a bunch of other moons along the way. The problem comes later on. The problem comes when you have a situation. Let's talk about the post game, right? That's probably where it's most logical. So, spoilers. I hope you're not watching this already because Quick Thoughts usually is full of spoilers, but the spoilers from here on out, like massive spoilers. So you beat the game. There's this really wacky ending where you capture Bowser, and I'm like, I'm still confused by it, but like, okay. And there's like vocals and shit. It's so weird. Anyway, so you do that. And then you go to the Mushroom Kingdom, and it's like, whoa, this is the Mushroom Kingdom. And it's such a throwback to Mario 64, it's like insane. Like, you jump into paintings, you collect power stars that they're like, oh, I didn't know moons could be this shape, It's just it's so nostalgic, right, in every way. But what happens is then they basically are like, because at the end when you're Bowser, you go on these like platforms and they turn gold and fall, and these are like cubes. And you see these like same cubes throughout the levels, and they're like, oh, you can't do anything with this. Well, when you beat the game, you can. So you break these cubes, and then the more moons appear in the levels. But the level design doesn't change anymore, but it just creates more moons in this space. Now, problem number one with this is very simple. It's that I've already explored this level, and now you're making me explore it again. It's the same thing as Galaxy 2, where they're like, oh, there's these green stars now, and it's like, well, I have to play the entire game again at this point. So it's like now it's forcing you to go back and explore these levels again, specifically places that you already explored, right, to do things again. And that is tedious and painful, especially for the people that took their time getting to the end of the game, right? So if you took time to explore the levels and you're like, I spent so much time going through this level to get every moon that I can, then you unlock more moons. It's like, well, I've already explored this entire place. So to me, that's a painful process. But It's kind of a catch-22 though, because if you don't do that, if you don't go around and explore everything, then what happens is then you're in this situation where you're kind of locked out of getting certain moons. And I don't mean that like you can't get them, I mean it's just much harder, because what happens is these moons that you unlock from hitting this cube boy, those moons appear on your map, so you can see where on the map they're located. Now, what are the good things about this? It means you know where they are so you don't waste much of your time. What are the bad things about it is it becomes very evident that you're just kind of walking back and forth all the time. So there's no interest, nothing interesting happens anymore because you're just going over here, get the moon, go over here, get the moon, go over here, get the moon. There are some times where these moons are interesting in how they're placed and how they're located. But sometimes they're just plain not. There are moons that you get from kicking around a random rock that's slightly more glowy than this other rock. You wouldn't notice that unless you noticed that the moon was on the map, right? But in some cases, the moon isn't on the map, because if this moon existed before you broke the cube, then the moon's not on the map. And there are cryptic moons before you break the thing, and then there are other cryptic moons after the thing. So it's like you get all the moons from the cube, and then you're like, well, what do I do now? There's still like 3 moons for me to get, and I have no idea how to get them. And you just don't have any idea. And there are 2 hint mechanics in the game, and neither of them are useful. Neither of them help. One of them just tells you the description of the moon, kind of like 64, where you select the mission, it's like, oh, this is how you get the moon. But it's like, it doesn't tell you anything. Like in Mario 64, it's like, oh, there's 5 secrets in the level, but they're just in random locations. So you're just kind of searching around the level, wandering aimlessly. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, there's some that are like, the missing moon, or the hidden secret moon. And I'm like, what the? That doesn't tell me anything. So that information isn't useful at all. Then, the other guy, slightly more useful admittedly, but he charges you 50 coins for it. Here's the problem with charging you 50 coins for it, and here's the problem with the coin system in the game, right? Because what happens is that if you die, you lose 10 coins. You don't lose a life because lives don't exist. Okay, great, lives don't exist, that's fine. I don't care. You kind of run around aimlessly anyway, so there's no real skill, there's no execution-based skill involved. It's all strategy. It's all evaluation. You go running around, and you're trying to figure out how to get these moves. And that doesn't mean there isn't some amount of execution-based skill, like the boss battles are kind of like that, but the boss battles are easy, and if you die, you just start at the beginning of the boss battles, whatever. So, there's definitely a bigger focus on exploration and puzzle solving than there is on, like, you know, actual platforming, like hardcore stuff that I like in the Mario series, right? Which is why I don't like this as much as, like, 3D World or 3D Land. That's okay, though, because some people don't like that. But where you run into this issue is, okay, so you're like, I want to get every moon in the game. Or let's just even say I want to beat the game, right? But I'm having trouble finding this particular moon or whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe you're like, I don't want to go back to the other kingdoms. I'm just staying here, and I'm having trouble getting my moon, right? So you pay this toad or whatever to 50 coins to get you this moon. The problem is 50 coins is the equivalent of half of a moon. Why? Because you can go to any shop in the game and just buy infinite power moons. And I don't actually mean infinite. There isn't a limit to it. But basically, what the end of Mario Odyssey is essentially there's 883 moons in the game that you can collect in the worlds. The remaining moons, up to 900 and something, can be bought in the shops, and they each cost 100 coins. So, why does this mechanic exist? Well, the reason why it exists is basically it's kind of a handicap. It's like if you're stuck, buy a freaking moon, right? But if you're stuck because you can't find a moon, and you spend money on the toad to help you find the moon, then you're basically kind of locking yourself out. So if the toad doesn't help you, then you're just even more screwed. So then you just kind of wander around the levels and then have to go grab coins. And that's not fun. It's just not fun. So, and if you're a completionist and you want to get everything in the game, then the end of the game is just the biggest slog of all time, because you're just kind of trying to get coins to get these last few moons, right? So this kind of goes into, okay, well, what are your completion metrics? And this is kind of a thing I talk about in the End Is Nigh video, right? And Mario Odyssey clearly does not want you to get 900-something moons. It says it does. It clearly doesn't. I know. I've seen the ending when you get all 100% moons. It is worse than Sunshine. Okay, maybe not worse than Sunshine. It is pretty damn bad. You do not get anything, essentially, for getting all of the moons. The most number of moons that you need to get is, I believe, 500. 400 or 500, one of those. Once you get that, you can stop. At that point, you can stop, because there's no more substantial content for you, basically. This is something that I think is badly designed because it's shutting you out of 400 moons essentially and doesn't reward you for getting them, especially when these moons are the most tedious in the entire game. So it's just testing your patience and doesn't reward you for it in any real substantial way. So yeah, I'm not happy about that. So what am I saying? What am I saying? What I'm saying is that I think the game's good. I think the level design is fairly good for the type of game that it is. I think it doesn't escape the problems of most collectathon games, where you run around a world and eventually you get to a point where you're just aimlessly wandering the world trying to find something. And the only way that they can fix this issue and make it not that way is to basically not hide them. Do you know what I mean? The most of these moons are like these moons are everywhere. You're gonna have to look super hard for them. But then when there's like one or two moons left, it becomes the most tedious thing, it becomes the most painful thing in the entire game. And that's where the game falters, essentially. So I don't think the game's designed around you getting all of the moons. But the thing that Nintendo needs to realize is that by creating a collectathon platformer, people are going to want to get all of these moons. And when they get there, they're going to find some of the most tedious and painful stuff. Perhaps some of the worst collection hunts in any of the Mario games. It's not as bad as the blue coins in Sunshine, but it's pretty bad. So that's something that I wish Nintendo would understand. I wish they would find a better way to do this if they want to continue to make these sort of open world collectathon games. This is also something that I actually think Yooka-Laylee does better than this game in terms of making its collection stuff more apparent and easy to understand. So it's less cryptic, essentially. But yeah, that's basically where I'm at with this game. So I enjoyed it. I beat it in one night. I clearly enjoyed my time with it. I would say it's better than 64. I would say it's better than Sunshine. I would say it's better than both Galaxy games. But I would definitely not say that it is better than 3D World. I would definitely not say it's better than 3D Land on the 3DS. And I would definitely say it's not better than pretty much every 2D Mario game that is ever released aside from Super Mario Land 1, because that game is trash. But that's basically where I'm at. Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna say every 2D Mario. Like New Super Mario Brothers 2 is pretty bad too. Odyssey's definitely better than that. So I'm talking New Super Mario Brothers is kind of its own beast, but I like the New Super Mario Brothers games quite a bit. But let's say U is I'm gonna go on a whim and say New Super Mario Brothers U is better than Odyssey. I'm going to say that New Super Mario Brothers on the DS is better than Odyssey, but probably not Wii and 2, because those are weaker entries in my opinion. But to each their own. Hey, fun times. I'm going to go. Later.